So yesterday, I posted a video titled, "Heat fans may hate me, but it's time Miami takes a major risk." And some of y'all definitely did hate me because in that video, I suggested that the Heat perhaps should maybe ponder a trade for Anthony Davis or Kawhi Leonard. But also in that video, I did say that I would love for the Miami Heat to target Giannis in the trade market, but I called it a pipe dream. Well, little did I know that less than 24 hours later, that dream would become less pipey. I don't know. Why do they even call it a pipe dream? Let me see. They say, the term pipe dream refers to an unrealistic or impossible hope or scheme and originates from the hallucinatory visions experienced when smoking opium through a pipe in the 19th century. Anyways, shout out to FanDuel, the sponsor of today's video, where right now you can get Giannis Antetokounmpo at plus 3,300 to win MVP. I know those odds are obviously pretty long. I think they have him with the 10th best odds, which is crazy considering Giannis is a guy who has been top 3 in MVP voting for several years in a row now. But it's because the Bucks suck. I think they're 9-13, so obviously he's not going to win MVP. But hey, if Giannis does get traded and he goes to a team with a better record, then these odds will shoot up quick. So maybe you want to get in while you still can. Because if you missed it yesterday, Giannis Antetokounmpo mysteriously took to social media and did a few weird things. He went on Twitter and deleted all of his tweets after 2021. And then he went on Instagram and deleted all of his photos that are related to the Milwaukee Bucks outside of just 2 that showed off his NBA Cup and Finals championships. Wait a minute. I don't follow Giannis on Instagram, but my girl does? Maybe I don't want Giannis in Miami after all. But anyways, in response to Giannis on social media yesterday, deleting all of those posts, Brian Windhorst took to ESPN radio this morning to say, basically, why is everybody freaking out? Because Giannis already requested a trade just this past offseason. And then in response to Brian Windhorst saying that, all of social media went crazy. Everybody went into a frenzy. And I didn't get it. I didn't understand all the commotion because this wasn't new news. I remember this past offseason, it was reported that Giannis was open to a trade to the Knicks. But the Knicks and the Bucks, they just couldn't get it done. And I've made a ton of videos on this channel over the last year, basically showing proof and quotes as to why I believed that this would be Giannis's last year in Milwaukee. I did say the only thing that could possibly change that outcome is if the Bucks miraculously had a much better season than their awful roster would suggest that they could, but that hasn't happened. Right now, the Bucks sit at 9-13, losing 8 of their last 9 games, and I understand that Giannis has missed some time during that span, but as of right now, they sit at rock bottom because in their last game, they just lost to the 2-16 Wizards when Giannis did play. So none of this news is a big deal right now unless I randomly see some breaking news from Shams Charania that, oh, wait a minute. We did get some Shams Charania news today, which makes things a little bit spicy, as just a couple hours ago, we did get a Shams wow that Giannis and his agent have started conversations with the Bucks about whether his best fit is in Milwaukee or elsewhere. This is the news that now gets me a little bit excited because, as y'all know, I actually read the full article that Shams put out. Y'all know I do my research. I don't just read headlines like a lot of other people. And in this article, there was one thing I found particularly interesting where Shams said that one source with direct knowledge of the situation described it as the writing is on the wall on the inevitable outcome for Antetokounmpo, unless there's a dramatic turn of events in the Bucks season, which, of course, I don't think we believe the Bucks are going to turn around their season this year. They suck. Their roster is awful. We all knew this would happen, right? They had waived and stretched Damian Lillard, giving them $20 million of dead salary cap space for the next 5 years, which was just a stupidly dumb move. Apparently, Giannis didn't like it in the last offseason, but we kind of knew that was their saving grace to try to save this roster. And obviously, a month into the season, it hasn't happened. So while I thought that a Giannis trade was something we would see in this coming offseason, now after this Shams report, I think that timeline just got shifted up And now I do think that we can see Giannis get moved by the February 5th trade deadline. Because what is Giannis and his agent, what are they going to discuss with the Bucks? They've already been discussing with the Bucks front office since last offseason whether he should stay or go. Like, Shams made this same report last offseason. And obviously things haven't changed. The roster hasn't got any better. So the only thing left for Giannis to discuss with the Bucks management is what are his preferred trade destinations. And I think Miami could be on that list. Now, Giannis's agent is a man by the name of Alex Saratsas. And Alex, I ask you one thing. Please don't be like Aaron Goodwin. If y'all remember Aaron Goodwin, a man that I once loved, is the agent of Damian Lillard. And it turns out that his campaigning for Dame to Miami was too hard. And it turns out that was part of the reason that he ultimately didn't end up here, because he made it too obvious. And in addition to that, Joe Cronin is still a bum asshole for life. But you just can't campaign that hard. And I don't think we'll have to worry about that with Alex Saratsas, since he's also the agent of Bam Adebayo. So I do think there'll be a good communication between all parties, because clearly the Heat organization at least has a good relationship with Alex Saratsas, so they can kind of communicate to him how things need to get done if Giannis does ultimately want to come to Miami. And I guess the only thing that can mess that up is if the Bucks GM, John Horst, doesn't do the right thing. If he pulls a Joe Cronin. But I don't think that will happen, because Dame is the first superstar in history to not go to his preferred trade destination. Everybody else does. And especially in Giannis's case, he's the guy that brought the Bucks their first ever championship. First? Or did they win with Kareem back in the day? I think they did. But anyways, Giannis brought them a championship. So I do think that John Horst ultimately does the right thing and sends Giannis to one of his preferred destinations. Now, that being said, I think Miami's on the list, right? Do I think they'll be the only team? No, of course not. I don't want to spend a ton of time in this video breaking down trade packages and matching salaries and exploring other potential suitors, because I think we'll have a ton of time for that. But I do think that the Heat have a chance. Now, the Terry Rozier situation complicates it a little bit, right? Because as of right now, the Heat only have 2 tradable first-round picks, which is not a lot, and it's something that the Heat could get outbid by many other teams. That's why in yesterday's video, I said, hey, maybe the Heat need to settle for an Anthony Davis or Kawhi or Zion or one of these other non-perfect stars, non-Giannis stars, because the Heat just don't have the draft capital. But if the NBA and if Adam Silver does the right thing and at least gives Miami Heat the Heat a 2027 compensatory pick, since we got screwed in the Terry Rozier situation, well, now getting a pick in 2027 would unlock an additional 2 first-round picks for the Miami Heat to trade. That means that the Heat could have 4 tradable first-round picks, which obviously will get you in the door for anybody, basically. 4 picks plus all the young assets that Miami has. Even Terry Rozier's contract, which that's another part of it as well, because the last report we got a couple weeks ago is the Heat still have not received clarity on whether they can use Rozier's contract to facilitate a trade. And it's a contract that I think the Bucks could find enticing, because it's a large expiring deal. And obviously, Giannis makes a lot of money, so any team that's trading for him has to also send a lot of money back in return. And most of the time, teams' large monies is not expiring. And if you're the Milwaukee Bucks, of course you want expiring money. You want a clean cap sheet going into next year. So I do think that the fact that Terry Rozier is a large expiring contract, I do think that could be beneficial to the Miami Bucks. Now we just have to hope that Adam Silver at least lets us trade it. Even if you don't give us any picks back, at least let us use that salary in a trade, because I do think that could help a lot. In addition to the other pieces like Tyler Hero, who's a 25-year-old all-star, I think there's definitely some value in that. He's having a nice season. You also got Khalil Ware, who's a guy that a fan base could get excited about. We saw his numbers when he was starting on this team. Man was averaging damn near 20 points and 16 rebounds. And I think as a Bucks front office, in a Giannis trade, you have to at least get one tangible piece for a fan base to have some hope in. And I do think that Khalil Ware could be that piece for them. And then on the Heat side of things, it's good news that Jaime Jaquez is balling out this year. Obviously, he's an older third-year player, right? Because he went to 4 years in college, but he's still a younger player. And right now, he's literally the leader in Sixth Man of the Year. So I do think he's a guy that has a lot of potential and definitely has some trade value. You also got Kasparas Giacochonis, who obviously just logged his first NBA minute last game, but he's been inconsistent in the G League thus far. but he's literally was just drafted like a couple months ago, and he was a guy that people said the Heat won the draft. They said Kasparis was the steal of the draft. Obviously, he was a projected lottery pick. He got him at 20. So I still think he holds a little bit of value there. And then the other really young guy is Nikola Jovic, who I definitely think had some value last year. And obviously, he's played pretty terrible this year, but it is more so the fact that he just signed an extension where he'll be getting $15 million a year. And because of that, I think that might be the real reason he doesn't quite have a lot of trade value. But even without Jovic, you still got Hero, Hamid, Ware, Kasparis. I think there's pieces there that could potentially get this done. Of course, the elephant in the room, you might say, is Bam Adebayo, but the Heat would never trade Bam Adebayo, and Giannis would never want to come here if Bam wasn't here. So I don't think that's even realistic to consider Bam in a trade. You know, as far as other teams, there's some teams in the West with a ton of assets, like OKC, which... why would they even make a trade? They're like 21-1, but of course they have a million picks. You got the Spurs with a bunch of picks and a bunch of young talent, but I think for now, I'd like to rule out the Western Conference as a potential landing spot for Giannis because it's such a bloodbath. Like, why would Giannis want to go to the West when he could just join a contender in the East and basically, you know, sleepwalk to the finals every year? So I do think Giannis would ultimately end up in the East. That's where you got Miami. You got the Knicks, who we already know that Giannis wants to go there. But the Knicks don't have a ton of picks. They obviously traded a bunch for Mikal Bridges. They traded for Karl Anthony Towns. So those players are definitely nice pieces that maybe Milwaukee would want, but they're not really young. The Knicks don't really have any young talent like Miami has. But maybe the Bucks would prefer win now pieces, considering they have like all of their picks either gone or swapped up until 2030, as this pretty great Reddit post points out. So it's like if the Bucks don't have their first round picks anyways, or at least the right to them, even if they suck, it's not like they could pick high in the draft anyway. So maybe the Bucks would prefer to still be relatively competitive with a Cat or Mikal Bridges. I don't know. It's difficult to say. There's other teams as well. Maybe a team like Toronto could be a sneaky team, especially with how well they've been playing. Maybe even Atlanta, who's off to a pretty nice start and seems willing to move off of Trae Young. Maybe the Bucks would be interested in him. So I definitely think there will be a lot of suitors, because every team would want Giannis. Just like every team would have wanted Luka. But for some reason, Nico Harrison decided to keep it a secret. It's so stupid. So I am very curious to see what ultimately ends up happening when Giannis, I guess, officially requests a trade, when that report officially comes out. And I do think we'll see that in a few weeks when a new Shams Wow drops at some point. But we'll see what happens. I just wanted to update everybody on the news today and explain kind of the status of things in case anyone was confused. More importantly, we do got a Heat game tonight, which I'm very excited about against the Dallas Mavericks. Unfortunately, Norman Powell is out, but I still like the Heat money line a lot on FanDuel. Although my favorite bet, I'll say, is I'm going to take Anthony Davis over 34.5 rebounds plus points, just because the Heat are still a smaller team for some reason. Spo is still not going to start Ware or probably play Ware more than 20 minutes. So I think Anthony Davis will feast, and I think he'll show y'all that he still got it. And all of y'all in yesterday's videos, comments that said I was stupid for wanting AD, we're going to see him ball out tonight, and then we'll see how stupid I am. Or he'll get hurt, and I'll look like the idiot. That'll probably be what happens. But anyways, let me know what y'all think down in the comments below. Very curious to hear what y'all think. That being said, I'll see y'all after the Heat game tonight. Peace out, everyone.
Pull up in your city, tryna get that dead face. Do it on my own, I don't need no dead weight. Had to kill him off, yeah, I need a head space. You know this homegrown bitch don't offend me.